When you're elected representative, what are the first things you're going to do for our area?
Well, I would probably try that school thing because I think we could do it in the DC schools. Otherwise, I represent our values, which is to, well, basically, our country is to be taxed, regulated, and litigated today. And that originates in the U.S. Congress. The taxes have to be reduced. Mr. Trump wants to reduce the corporate tax from 35% to 15%. That will make it the same as Russia's and China. Wouldn't be an idea if our taxes were equal playing field. Our taxes need to be reduced in every regard. The regulations are incredible.
Especially fishing and
If
timber.
you go, I've walked every Main Street in District 4. I've talked to businessmen. In Eugene and Corvallis, they're thriving because the university brings in so much money it's sloshing all over town. As soon as you go south of Eugene, it's bad. About, on average, about a fourth of the businesses are closed. A lot of the others, only the owner is in there because he can't afford employees. And it's a depressed, bad economy. And of course, we've won all those counties in all 3 elections. Because, not just on principles, but also because they're being harmed by the government more. Although I think the people in Eugene and Corvallis are in worse shape. Because if things get really bad, I wouldn't want to be living in the city. I want to be living in a self-sufficient rural community. But the economic problems in the United States are now so bad that they probably cannot be fixed. But if you live in a community like this, the wonderful people, Curry County has wonderful people. It's a rural area. You can be self-sufficient, and I think you'll be well off. It's also true. Most people in civil defense, people would say crazy things. They'd say, "Well, you know, I stored some food. I'm going to protect it for my neighbor." That isn't what people do. If you store food, you're going to give it to your neighbor. Preston Carney, I worked very hard with him in civil defense. He was a great scientist and one of our greatest civil defense experts. And he was in a lot of disaster situations in war and during peace in his lifetime. He said one thing about humans, they always get better when things get worse. They always get better. They always cooperate. I always tell people, store the food for your family and then store it for all your neighbors because you're going to be giving it to your neighbors anyway. And so as things get worse, the community, quality of the people and their helping each other will improve. That is an aspect of human nature.
Better don't count on it.
And, well, they will. And in this community, it'll be the same. Thank you very much.
I'm not trying to... Okay, I'm going to tell a quick story. My grandfather, 30s and 40s,
Thank you.
going along with how you concluded there, raised 12 kids, middle, before, during, and after the Depression. The youngest of the girls was my Aunt Mary, 6 girls, 6 boys. She come home from school one time, and little Jane had one piece of bread with lard in the middle of it. Okay, so my grandmother, as soon as my grandfather got home, says, "Alan, we've got to do something." So they raised hogs. They went out, they shot a hog, they dressed it, took half of it to the neighbors that needed it really bad. What do you think the neighbors did with it? They shared it with everybody else in the neighborhood. And so I
Can
just...
I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, my wife was a scientist, but she died when our 6 children were 1.5 to 12 years old. So I grew up with them. And I know one thing about raising children, because I know what happened to me. The Lord raised the children and I ran errands. That's what happened. And I'm not kidding. And I'm still running errands. I was running errands yesterday. I was kind of tired because I got back late running errands. But that's the way it's, and we want a country where the Lord can continue to be in communication with our children. And some of the social decay we have is inhibiting that communication, and it's very, very bad.
It will deal.
In the old times, where just about everybody would grow their own food, they would keep 1/3 of seeds, for example, for themselves to eat. Then the other third would go to a neighbor, and the third would go back to the ground. So,
Where was that?
well, I was born when Hitler started the war, and I could people which know me, they say, why don't you write a book? Because it's so very different than people really know about, because most people, particularly the Germans, would not talk about it, not to their children, nothing. However, it was, we would eat sawdust. It was, everything was extreme.
Well, I don't think we saw that we're gonna have to work together. This county is gonna be one of the healthiest in the entire state.
I never had a present be worse or poor, and I, for many years, after I was a teenager and older, I would think, oh, I had nothing, I didn't have a doll, or I didn't have this or that. What I had was rocks on the floor, or running away from the beautiful lights in the sky, which was bombs, but they looked so awesome, and we were running away from them. But now, coming in the life we are getting into, all the old times coming up, and you were talking about penny pincher and so on. Now I realize how fortunate I am that I have such a tough life, because I'm not scared. I know what to do. And I'm looking in a way forward to, because there is so much waste we have. I even don't want to start because I can't stop then. I think you all know what I want to say. Let's start.
One more applause for Art Robinson.
I'd also like to say something. I'm